He admitted to having premarital sex.
A Jewish quarterback at a Mormon college? Premarital sex? A suspension? An accusation recanted? The violation of an honor code? And finally, an upcoming transfer. This is undoubtedly one of the college football stories of all time. What in the name of Joseph Smith is going on over here?
There goes that kooky Joseph Smith. You know, he claims he spoke with God and Jesus.
BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff is officially done in Provo. Not because of an injury, not because of a bad season, but because, once again, of the BYU Honor Code, which is undefeated.
Some other former athletes say the school's code of conduct required of both students and athletes punishes them too severely.
Violations of the honor code may result in actions up to and including separation from the university.
Who is Jake Retzlaff? Why should you care about this bizarre story? Because we could be talking about Retzlaff in the NFL draft one day, and this will certainly come up. And when I say we'll be talking about him in the NFL draft, I mean he's going to be the guy the Steelers take probably in the 6th round because they still haven't solved their quarterback problem.
Giving these guys an opportunity to rebound in that area.
Welcome to Law and Order and Mormon Sports, where the code of honor reigns supreme.
He admitted to having premarital sex.
Brigham Young University. For those unfamiliar, the BYU Honor Code is basically the NCAA's version of playing football on Heisman difficulty, but for your social life.
BYU students continued a second day of protests of a clarification of the school's honor code.
It's a contract. Every student agrees to don't drink, don't smoke, don't have premarital sex, don't grow your beard too long, and definitely don't try to sneak by any of those rules if you're the starting quarterback. The school takes it very seriously, sometimes more seriously than winning football games. And that's where Retzlaff's story at BYU hits the wall. Now personally, if I had to go all of college without having sex, I could have easily had 3 doctorates from BYU. Wait, no, I was cool in college, I swear. Let's rewind though for a second. Jake Retzlaff showed up at BYU with a decent amount of hype. The guy was the #1 ranked junior college quarterback in the country in 2022. He absolutely torched teams at Riverside City College in California to the tune of 4,596 passing yards, 44 touchdowns, and 14 picks in one season. It seemed like a perfect fit for a school in Provo, Utah that loves to sling it. BYU, like a lot of programs, needed a quarterback. Current Texans backup quarterback Kendon Slovis had transferred in from Pitt, but everyone knew he was a stopgap. Retzlaff was supposed to be the guy of the future, and when Slovis got hurt in 2023, Retzlaff got his shot. His first few games were a little rough. BYU lost all 4 of them to close out the 2023 season, but 2024 rolled around and Retzlaff looked a lot more comfortable and confident back there. He locked down the starting gig, lit up Southern Illinois in the opener with 350 yards and 3 touchdowns, and didn't really look back. Over 13 games, he threw for 2,947 yards, 20 touchdowns, and added 6 more scores on the ground. BYU finished 11-2, won the Alamo Bowl over Deion Sanders in Colorado, and cracked the top 15 in the final college football playoff rankings. It was BYU's best season in years. We hadn't seen that kind of stuff at the program since Zach Wilson was beating the shit out of Troy in Western Kentucky during that weird COVID season. Retzlaff even pulled off something no one had done before. He became the first Jewish starting quarterback in BYU history. If you know anything about the school, which is owned and operated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints,
where about 98% of those enrolled are of the Mormon faith.
That's kind of a big deal.
So grateful for BYU to allow me to have this platform, to allow me to be, faith-oriented and allow me to grow in my faith.
Not always the easiest cultural transition there. But while things looked great on the field, off the field it was turning into a a big mess. Just over a month ago in May, news broke that a woman referred to as Jane Doe AG had filed a civil lawsuit against Retzlaff, accusing him of sexual assault. Obviously, very serious allegations. The alleged incident took place back in November of 2023, not long after Retzlaff took over as the starter. Now, according to the lawsuit, the two connected on social media, messaged for a few weeks, and eventually hung out at Retzlaff's place. What started as watching a movie and kissing allegedly turned into something that the woman did not consent to. She said she told Retzlaff stop and wait, but claimed he ignored her and then assaulted her. The lawsuit also accused him of strangling and biting her during the encounter. Again, serious accusations. Retzlaff, through his lawyer, completely denied those accusations. He admitted that they had sex, but said it was 100% consensual. His legal team pointed to friendly text exchanges between the two that continued well into February of 2024, so well after the alleged incident. The texts included jokes about the BYU-Utah rivalry, flirty messages, jokes that she wasn't old enough for Zach Wilson. Okay, that last one I made up. Meanwhile, the police did investigate, but never filed charges. There wasn't enough evidence, and the case basically went cold from the criminal side. Retzlaff's side claimed it was an extortion plot, which is also truly disgusting on its own, and perhaps even more so given what Retzlaff had to lose if he simply told the truth. But BYU wasn't waiting for the legal system to sort things out. Once the lawsuit was filed, the school started its own Title IX investigation, and then there's that honor code, that old honor code, right? The honor code at BYU bans premarital sex.
And he basically made a mistake, and the honor code is basically not above anybody.
No, it was not written by Barry McCockiner, although I'm sure he had a hand in all of this. Now, whether the sex was consensual or not, Retzlaff had already admitted that it happened.
Admitting that he did have sex with Jane Doe AG.
He admitted to having premarital sex.
That's an automatic violation of their honor code. And this is where you can argue about priorities. At most major programs, this whole thing probably gets swept under the rug if the charges are not filed and the guy throws 20 touchdowns. Sad, but that's how this shit usually plays out. But BYU isn't like most programs, right? They're honor code rules, not football, and it's been that way for decades. Brandon Davies was kicked off the basketball team mid-season in 2011. The Jimmer for Debt team that was ranked number 3 in the country. By the way, he got kicked off for having premarital sex with his girlfriend. If you're wondering how the school found out that a basketball player and his girlfriend had sex, it's because he felt so bad about it that he admitted it. He felt bad about having completely consensual sex with his girlfriend. Excellent system you have there. If you're gonna feel bad after having sex with your girlfriend, it should be because you know she's thinking about somebody else. The way it usually works. Jamal Williams, who is not Mormon but went to school at BYU, was suspended for a full season in 2015 for having a girl in his dorm room. And I'm sure Jamal was just making her watch him play Pokemon.
I just want to go home and play Pokemon.
Go home and play Pokemon?
Yeah, Pokemon.
It's an absolute miracle that Jim McMahon, the rock and roll QB, was never kicked out of that school.
Cool, looked like he was stoned when he was playing. He was like, the rock and roll quarterback.
It doesn't matter how many games you win or whether you're going to the NFL or the NBA, if you break the code, you pay the price.
Don't do that. You can't disrespect Pokemon like that. Pokemon.
Following the investigation into his sex life, Retzlaff knew what was coming. Sources around the program say he was told to expect a 7-game suspension for the 2025 season.
Should Jake remain at BYU, he would be facing a 7-game suspension, but that doesn't look like that'll be the case.
So instead of sticking around, losing half the season, maybe his starting job, and dealing with the nonstop attention, he's transferring. Furthermore, the suit that was filed against him has been dismissed.
The civil case alleging BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff committed rape and sexual assault is dismissed.
The case has been dismissed by the judge with prejudice, meaning the defendant cannot refile the lawsuit. BYU's quarterback room now looks a lot different. Utah State transfer, McKay Hillstead, Western Michigan transfer, Trayson Bourget, and Stanford transfer, Bear Backenmeyer. What the fuck are these names? Are all competing for the starting job. None of them have Retzlaff's numbers, but all of them, as far as we know, still have a clean honor code record. I'm sure none of them have ever had sex, drank alcohol, coffee, or missed church.
Shut up. How does that happen?
He's a fucking virgin. Oh, knew it. That makes so much sense, man. Look, he's a virgin.
The timing is tough for BYU. The program was building momentum. Kalani Sitake had a real quarterback pipeline going, and now their most productive quarterback in years is gone because of a combination of legal drama, personal choices, and school rules. Do I feel bad for them losing their starting quarterback to all of this? Not really. When you try to uphold fairly draconian rules like no premarital sex in 2025, this kind of thing is going to happen. Especially when you're recruiting athletes that aren't even Mormon to begin with. We all know about the loopholes like soaking and having someone bounce the bed up and, oh God, I'm going to have to change my pants just thinking about those loopholes. As far as Retzlaff, he's expected to land at another major program. It's not hard to believe there's a Power 4 team desperate for an experienced quarterback, and he fits the bill. Just like in the NFL, reliable and experienced quarterbacks are hard to come by in college football, and I expect he'll land somewhere where he can ball out and be shunned if he isn't throwing up on the practice field after drinking all night.
Oh, gross.
This also isn't Retzlaff's first rodeo in the transfer portal. He went from Golden West College to River City College to BYU. The poor man's Ivy League, as we call it here in the western half of the country. Now he's about to add a fourth stop to his college football road trip. And don't forget, Retzlaff is also probably the only QB in America with an NIL deal from Manischewitz. Yes, the Jewish food company. During the 2024 season, they signed him to promote matzo and other products. It was weird, it was kind of hilarious, and honestly, it made him stand out.
Manischewitz.
Now, the next time you see a Manischewitz commercial featuring Retzlaff, it will probably be filmed somewhere that doesn't suspend you for, well, being a college student. What's truly wild is how all of this came down just months after Retzlaff was playing his best football. He had signature moments last year, the game-winning drive against Oklahoma State, a huge performance in the Alamo Bowl over Colorado, and that scrappy dual-threat play style that BYU fans hadn't seen since Steve Young. Maybe there was some in-between, but I was too lazy to think of anyone other than Steve Young. But the reality at BYU is simple. It doesn't matter how many yards you throw for. If you break the honor code off the field, you're fucked. That's how it's always been and probably will always be. They've hamstrung themselves in some regard, but it's their tradition and their faith. And as silly as I think it is, I guess I respect them for sticking to their principles. Retzlaff leaves with solid numbers, nearly 3,600 passing yards, 23 TDs, and 9 rushing scores in 2 seasons. But his BYU career will probably be remembered more for how it ended than what he did on Saturdays. At the end of the day, it's a really unfortunate story. A college kid was likely framed for sexual assault, and instead of being supported by his team and school, has to pack up, leave town, and start over.
As a culture, we love to point out the differences in each other, but we have way more similarities. That's something I've got to discover here, is so many guys are so much like me.
He admitted to having premarital sex.
Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. You gotta subscribe. Everybody enjoy the holiday weekend, and I hope you enjoyed this very bizarre episode of Law & Order Mormon Sports.